We will now reconvene this meeting of the Williamsburg-James City County School Board. May I have members please certify closed session?
Madam Chair, I certify that to the best of each member's knowledge, the Williamsburg-James City County School Board, while in closed session, discussed only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements as stated in Virginia law, and that only such public matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Thank you, Ms. Chen. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Hunley. Mrs. Aller?
Ms. Chen.
Aye.
Mr. Hodges.
Aye.
Mr. Hosang.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Riffle.
Aye.
Dr. Cavazos.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye. May I have a member for approval of the budget?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Hosang. What did I do?
You said budget, but that's okay. I mean, we can.
You did the right motion, so it's fine.
It's just another April Fool's thing.
April Fools!
Keeping everybody on their toes here, yeah.
Hurry menopause. Anyway. May I have someone who, I heard a motion. Where am I?
Second, Madam Chair.
This is why we don't do Wednesday
Madam
meetings.
Chair, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Host.
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Hosang.
I second Mr. Hosang's motion.
Thank you, Mr. Ripple. Ms. Aller.
Mr. Hosang.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Riffle.
Aye.
Dr. Cavazos.
Aye.
Ms. Chen.
Aye.
Mr. Hodges.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye. We will now move on to item 4.01, the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first item in the superintendent's report is something that I would hope you'll mark your calendars for. Purple Up on April 15th. April marks the month of the military child, and when we return from spring break on that Wednesday, we ask that everyone listening and everybody in this room plan to wear purple to show up for military kids and families on Purple Up Day. Military children may experience frequent moves and family separations through deployment. Our children consistently demonstrate resilience and courage, and we hope that folks will join us in wearing purple to show support for children facing these unique circumstances. April 21st is an operational support job fair. Join us on Tuesday, the 21st of April at James Blair Middle School for an operational support job fair. We're looking for bus drivers and aides, cafeteria, custodial, trades professionals to join our team. There are immediate openings, and there are also openings as we really look towards 26-27. On-site interviews will occur, and conditional job offers to well-qualified candidates will happen. If you've ever wanted to know what it's like to drive a school bus, this is also one of your chances. Come test drive a bus and then apply to drive with WJCC. It's happening 9 to 12 on the 21st of April. As a way of reminder, the 21st of April is an asynchronous learning day for our students as a result of the referendum that's occurring across the Commonwealth, which gives us an opportunity to host this job fair during normal working hours from 9 to 12. Kindergarten Registration Fest, is slated for the 24th of April. It's later this month. Rising kindergartners and their families are invited to this Family Fest Friday the 24th, 5 to 8 p.m. at War Hill. There will be food trucks, raffles, face painting, games, and activities, and it will help families completing steps to register rising kindergarten students for school. Before I get to the next item, I did need to make an important announcement. After much consideration and sort of thought around the need for increased days for students in school, I am hereby canceling spring break.
All right.
No.
I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding, of
All
course.
those who say boo.
I asked Ms. Wall to not advance the slide. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we are not canceling spring break. In fact, it can't get here soon enough. Friday is an early release day. That's April the 3rd. And next week, schools and offices will be closed to the public for spring vacation. Wish all of our WJCC community a safe and restful break and come back on that Monday in April ready to rock and roll to close the school year. Madam Chair, that concludes my announcements.
Thank you so much, Dr. Keever, and for that very upsetting joke, April Fools. We will move on. We have Dr. Hosang also. Wow. I just made you a doctor.
Well, congratulations. I am.
JD, Juris Doctor.
For a
Juris
Juris Doctor,
Doctor.
technically I am, but Usually I don't go by that.
Oh, my goodness. Mr. Hosang has a report tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had a New Horizons meeting on Monday. The culinary department used us as guinea pigs again to sample a fine dinner that they made for us. I'm always amazed. I'm amazed by everything that New Horizons does, but when we always have the dinner, I'm always amazed at how they prepare it, what they prepare. They serve us, they seat us. It's a full restaurant experience, a formal dining experience. It's great. I just want to give a shout out to Miss Vernon, the culinary professor there. She's done a great job, and if anyone wants to see the food that we encountered that evening, I have the menu. During our meeting, we had a presentation from the governor's school, and Dr. Keever drew the short straw, so he's going to present or summarize the first presentation that was given to us that evening. If you want to proceed, Dr. Keever.
I'm going to defer that to later in the agenda.
Thank you. And the only reason I say that is because Dr. Keever, you may have understood, I did not understand most of what they were discussing. These students participated with, I want to get this right, Old Dominion University and Hampton University in science projects. And they were talking about fusion, a model that they were working on. I understood fusion. I was glad that one student discussed to us that fusion is when you're combining molecules or substances. Fission is when you're separating them. They were using these models to try and determine how to come up with different energy costs or to reduce energy costs. But they gave a presentation, and I mean they were amazing of what they were doing in the school. So if anyone has a chance to attend or do that, please do. We had a second presentation from students in the Roots for STEM division. And what this, I'll just read from it, is there are work centers on designing and hosting quarterly STEM camps for elementary and middle school students, creating early exposure to computing and hands-on learning experiences. And the presentation that we received was from 3 individuals who just this past weekend participated in the ACM Capital Region Celebration of Women in Computing contest, where they placed first place in presenting their motto of teaching our students STEM. And they did such a great job, again, coming in first place, but what they did and then reaching out and presenting that to us, an abbreviated presentation, again, was just spectacular and how they were doing things. We then discussed our budget, and if I can find, they're having the same issues that we are. They've got increased health costs that they're working on. Right now, they're also competing, obviously, with the other jurisdictions. Their salary growth has been approximately 23% the past 5 years, where the regional areas have been over 25%. So their teachers, their employees are basically behind where the rest of us are. So they're looking at ways to assist with that project. This year, for next fiscal year, they have approximately $600,000 increase in their budget compared to the previous year. So that's a part of the reason why our numbers have gone up a little bit in what we're providing to New Horizons. They mentioned various teams that have been competing recently, whether it's been through the state, through the national competitions. They highlighted a drone competition where they had 2 teams. One achieved the highest score of the competition. They placed first in the state and 35th in the world. So again, New Horizons is doing some great things with our students, and so if there's any students that are thinking about that as an option, please do so. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hosang. Any other presentations from board members? If not, we will move on to item 5.01, review adoption recommendation and purchase request for AP English textbooks and instructional materials.
Madam Chair, this evening we are bringing two textbook recommendations to the board for consideration. The first is around AP English and instructional materials. Ms. Mompoint is here to share that presentation with us and walk you through the next steps. Courtney, go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Keever. Tonight, I will provide an overview of the AP English courses, which are AP Seminar English 10, AP English Language and Composition, which is taught in 11th grade, and AP English Literature and Composition taught in grade 12, the textbook adoption process, and I'll present a recommendation from the Adoption Committee for the acquisition of instructional materials for these courses.
Give it a whirl. There you go.
Hey.
Yes.
Yay. The adoption of instructional materials for AP English aligns with key priority, academic achievement, college and career readiness, and educational equity in the strategic plan, Elevate 28. Having instructional materials that support 21st century learning and Virginia's profile of a graduate ensures that students and teachers have the appropriate resources aligned with the College Board's essential components and core skills for each AP English course. It is also included in our goal to have high-quality instructional materials to support equitable access to instruction and resources that promote the success of all students. AP English classes currently lack district-adopted instructional materials, creating inconsistencies in resources and student access. A unified set of instructional materials will ensure alignment with College Board standards, provide equitable access to rigorous content for all students, and support consistent, high-quality instruction across courses. These instructional materials offer organized, scaffolded learning, authentic AP-style practice, and sustainable resource management, ultimately strengthening exam readiness and college-level skill development. They also provide teachers with structured, classroom-ready resources to support effective and consistent instruction. This slide provides a clear timeline of our instructional materials adoption process, outlining key phases from initial planning through final board approval. The two publishers that we put forward for the committee to evaluate are College Board approved. Both publishers provided us with copies of their books and access to their digital platforms and electronic versions of their textbooks. Copies of the books were made available for the public to view at the school board office for 7 weeks and at an evening adoption fair held at Central Office in room 116 on February 26th. Each school had access to hard copies of the textbooks and materials, as well as online access from both publishers. The community was also provided access to the digital platforms and electronic textbooks through the division website for 7 weeks. A committee representing a variety of stakeholders was created per school board policy IIAAR to review the textbooks and other materials provided by each publisher. I'm appreciative of all the work of the 20 committee members and their colleagues. The committee was comprised of individuals representing the school board, division staff, a secondary administrator, AP English teachers representing each course in high school, special education, gifted and LEAP teachers, and parents. Interest in committee membership was collected through administrator and coordinator recommendations and the Engage With Us process. In addition, I would like to thank Mr. Ty Hodges for serving on the committee as our school board representative. The list of committee representatives continues on the next slide. Committee members and the community were asked to evaluate the textbooks and instructional materials considering criteria chosen under the 4 larger categories, which are found in IIAAR, as well as the option to evaluate the College Board's essential components and core skills for each AP course. The 4 criteria categories are content, such as graphics, organization, representation, and alignment to standards. Resources, do the teacher's manual and supplementary materials support remediation or extension of learning? Services, what is the format, access, and duration of professional learning provided by the vendor to support implementation of textbook and related resources? And cost, how does the cost of the textbook align with the allocated budget? Evaluation responses were collected using Microsoft Forms from January 20th through February 27th, 2026. Respondents were not required to evaluate a criteria if they did not feel qualified to do so. The committee met on March 5th to review the evaluation data and discuss the instructional materials. Members compared the two publishers' resources, focusing on alignment with AP course frameworks, student supports, organization and usability, and digital platform features. Based on this discussion and the evaluation results, the committee reached a final selection. The committee voted to select BFW instructional materials for all 3 AP English courses. This adoption provides both print and digital instructional materials, along with resources to support teaching and learning across all AP English courses. The committee shared strong and consistent feedback in support of these materials, highlighting their alignment with AP course frameworks, support for both teachers and students, classroom-ready design, and a robust digital platform. In terms of alignment, each text closely follows the College Board course frameworks and supports the development of key skills, including inquiry and research in AP Seminar, rhetorical analysis and argument in AP Language, and literary analysis in AP Literature. The materials also provide strong support for students through structured scaffolds, guided practice, and diverse, rigorous text that promote critical thinking and discussion. For teachers, the resources are well aligned and classroom ready, offering materials that support planning, instruction, and consistent implementation across courses. Finally, the digital platform provides tools such as annotation, interactive resources, and Canvas integration, ensuring accessibility and ease of use for both teachers and students. We have begun preliminary planning for the implementation of the new textbook immediately following the school board's decision late this month. While we await the delivery of the materials, we'll begin preparing critical professional learning for summer camp GPS and pre-service professional learning sessions to ensure the supports are in place to support collaborative planning for teachers in the 2026-2027 school year. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to our 20 committee members for their dedication and the generous time they devoted to this process. I'm especially grateful for the exceptional leadership of our secondary English coordinator, Sarah Brandt, and our secondary literacy coach, Grace Rivera, who's sitting in the back. Their thoughtful planning and execution ensured a seamless, engaging, and impactful textbook adoption process. At this time, I'd be happy to address any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Ms. Monpoint.
You're welcome.
Any questions from the board? Yes, Dr. Cavazos.
How many students take these courses?
So right now in AP Seminar, which is English 10, we have 520.
120.
520 for AP Seminar. AP Language Comp, that's 425, and AP Literature and Composition, that's 230. So about 1,200, approximately.
That's a lot of students.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Hodges.
No question, just want to say thank you for the shout out, and it was a pleasure to be on the committee. It was really enlightening. I haven't cracked open a textbook, admittedly, in a while, and it has been even longer since I read the works of Virginia Woolf, which I did while reviewing some of the contents. So it was good to see that, and the group that was together on there did a really good job, and it was a very thorough process, and I'm very pleased with the results. So,
Thank you. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Any other comments or questions? All right, we'll be prepared to vote at our next meeting.
We would ask for your favorable vote on the 21st of April when we get together again.
Again? One more time. Sounds good. All right, we'll move on to 5.02, review adoption recommendation and purchase request for geometry textbooks and instructional materials.
Ms. Monpoint, it's all you.
All right, thank you. Hello again. All right, next I'll provide you with an overview of the geometry textbook and textbook materials adoption process and provide a recommendation from the adoption committee for the acquisition of instructional materials for geometry.
There we go.
All right. As shared during the previous textbook adoption presentation, the adoption of instructional materials aligns with key priority academic achievement, college and career readiness, and educational equity in the strategic plan. The Virginia Department of Education implemented new mathematics standards of learning at the beginning of the 2023-2024 school year. Our current geometry textbook was published in 2005 and does not align with the updated standards. Adopting new instructional materials is necessary to ensure students and teachers have resources that support the current standards. This slide provides a clear timeline of our instructional materials adoption process, outlining key phases from initial planning through final board approval. All publishers provided us with copies of their books and access to their digital platforms and electronic versions of their textbooks. Copies of the books were made available for the public to view at the school board office for 7 weeks and at an evening adoption fair held at Central Office in room 309 on February 27th. Each school had access to hard copies of the textbooks and materials, as well as online access from publishers. Teachers were encouraged to share the digital programs with their students to get their feedback. The community was also provided access to the digital platforms and electronic textbooks through the division website for 7 weeks. The 4 publishers that we put forward for the committee to evaluate were all VDOE approved textbooks. The committee, representing a variety of stakeholders, was created per school board policy to review the textbooks and other materials provided by each publisher. I am also appreciative of all the work of the 14 committee members and their colleagues. The committee was comprised of individuals representing the school board, division staff, secondary administrators, classroom teachers, special education, gifted and LEAP teachers, and parents. Interest in committee membership was collected through administrator and coordinator recommendations and the Engage With Us process. I would like to thank Ms. Amy Chen for serving on the committee as our school board representative. The list of committee members continues on the next page. Committee members and the community were asked to evaluate the textbooks instructional materials considering criteria chosen under the 4 larger categories, which are found in IIAAR, as well as the VDOE's textbook quality assurance criteria for textbook approval process. As shared in the previous presentation, the 4 categories are content, resources, services, and cost. Evaluation responses were collected using Microsoft Forms from January 12th through February 27th, 2026. Respondents were not required to evaluate a criteria if they did not feel qualified to do so. The committee met on March 5th to review the evaluation data and discuss their thoughts on the books. The data allowed the committee to compare the 4 publishers' textbooks and materials. The discussion then centered on the organization of the content, accessibility and readability, and the digital platform features. The committee discussed the pros and cons of each book and based on this discussion made a final selection. The committee voted to select Math Space Virginia, Geometry for 2023 SOLs. The purchase will provide classroom sets of the physical books and digital materials and resources for all geometry students and teachers for 7 years, including professional learning support and resources. The committee shared thoughtful and enthusiastic feedback in support of this text, highlighting how well it aligns with our 2023 math standards, supports both teachers and students, and offers a robust digital platform to enhance learning. In terms of alignment with our instructional goals, the text offers standards-aligned assessments and materials developed specifically for the Virginia 2023 SOLs. It will have embedded supports that strengthen conceptual understanding, introductory exploration activities for student engagement, and integration of mathematical process goals designed to promote deep mathematical thinking. We have begun preliminary planning for the implementation of the new textbook following the school board's decision later this month. While we await delivery of the materials, we will begin preparing professional learning opportunities for teachers, including sessions at Camp GPS, pre-service professional development, and training for administrators during the Summer Leadership Institute. At the same time, we will begin updating our curriculum documents to incorporate math-based resources and materials to support seamless integration into instruction. These updates will help ensure teachers have the resources and guidance needed for weekly collaborative planning and instructional coaching during the 2026-2027 school year. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to our 14 committee members for their dedication and their generous time they devoted to this process. I am especially grateful for the exceptional leadership of our secondary math coach, Rebecca Cothran, who's sitting in the back, and our secondary math coach, Heather Holcomb. Their thoughtful planning and execution ensured a seamless and engaging and impactful adoption process. This time, I'll be happy to address any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Plumpoint. Any questions from the board? Thank you, Ms. Chen.
I don't have any questions. I'll just say that I was very happy to be a part of the committee and the process. So thank you to Miss Cochran and Miss Cawthron, sorry, and Miss Holcomb, and also thank you for the presentation. And again, I can just say, share with the board. I thought our meeting was extremely productive. I'll make note that we are adopting, assuming that we vote in favor, we are adopting the geometry, which is the same publisher that we agreed to last year when we did algebra. So it would be kind of, teachers had noted that they liked that consistency, and also parents and students will have that consistency in sort of having the same publisher for our algebra curriculum, and then transitioning into the next course would be geometry. So that was something that I was very happy to hear, and also to hear that the implementation of algebra is going well. So it seems like everything just went really well. So I was happy to be a part of the process, and thank you for leading the efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? All right, well, thank you, Ms. Mompoint. We will move to our next agenda item, 5.03, review of the local plan and budget for career and technical education. Carl D. Perkins grant for school year 2026-2027.
Madam Chair, Jessica Walter is joining us this evening to help walk us through the Carl D. Perkins CTE local plan. There's also some information in board docs for you as well, and she'll cover some of that during her presentation. Jessica, welcome and thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Keever, and members of the board. The Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act focuses on improving the academic and technical achievement of CTE students and strengthening the connections between secondary and post-secondary education. Perkins affords states and local communities the opportunity to implement a vision for CTE that uniquely supports the range of educational needs of students, exploration through career preparation, and balances those student needs with the current and emerging needs of the economy. Each year, we are required to develop and implement a local plan for CTE in order to be eligible for funding. This plan has been reviewed and approved by members of our Career Ready Advisory Committee, and I will be presenting the plan to you this evening, which is broken up into sections referred to as schedules. There are a total of 18 schedules in addition to the annual performance assessments in the Perkins local plan. Excuse me. In alignment with our strategic plan, Elevate 28, the Perkins 5 plan supports the key priority of academic achievement, college and career readiness, and educational equity and access for all students. The Career Ready Advisory Committee is made up of representatives from each of the stakeholder groups listed on the screen, in addition to division staff and school board representation. The Advisory Committee, which meets throughout the year, has been involved in the development, implementation, and evaluation of WJCC's CTE programs and partnerships. We would like to express our gratitude to all members of this committee for their advocacy and commitment to CTE, and for reviewing and providing input and approving this year's local plan at the meeting on March 11th, 2026. Their participation in this committee provides invaluable insight and a wealth of knowledge and resources for which we are thankful. A list of specific members of the Career Ready Advisory Committee is listed on Schedules 1 and 2 of our local plan. Part of the Perkins 5 plan includes an examination of WJCC performance on identified standards in comparison with Virginia agreed-upon performance levels. When viewing the slide above, a CTE completer is a student who has met the requirements for a career technical concentration or specialization and all requirements for high school graduation or an approved alternative education program. Special populations is defined by 9 different categories a student may fall in, including students with disabilities, economically disadvantaged students, English language learners, and students with parents who are active duty military. On this slide, we see the Perkins performance standards with 3-year trend data. The Virginia agreed upon performance level is identified in purple within each section. Academic proficiency looks at students who completed a CTE program and were also enrolled in an academic course for which standards of learning end-of-course test is required, where these students attain a passing score on the corresponding test. In the area of language arts, we fell just below the 95.71% performance level for all completers, and in math, for special populations, just below the 94.51%. Within the language arts category, it is important to note that the state made changes to their data collection procedures last year due to the updated accountability framework, and this change impacted the reporting measures for academic proficiency in reading language arts. This change accounts for the decrease in performance standard for reading language arts in special populations. Overall, while our reading performance scores did decline, we came within 0.44% of the agreed upon performance standard for all completers. Here we also see increases in math, science, and technical skills attainment for all completers and special populations. While we did not meet the Virginia agreed upon performance standard in special populations for science or math this year, you are able to see here that we did increase in our performance in these areas. When reviewing the above data, it is helpful to remember that this is only reflective of CTE completers last school year, which means our graduates and not all CTE students. Our work across the division in providing intervention and support to all students will support the improvement of these core areas in the future. As we continue to review the Perkins performance standards, we see continued growth in post-program placement and program quality attained recognized post-secondary credential. For non-traditional program concentration, while we did not meet the performance level of 31.85%, we did increase in our performance from the previous year, which was 14.84%. Non-traditional program concentration is the number of CTE completers from underrepresented gender groups who during the 24-25 school year completed a program that leads to employment in non-traditional fields. The term non-traditional fields means occupations or fields of work, such as careers in computer science, technology, and other current and emerging high-skill occupations for which individuals from one gender comprise less than 25% of the individuals employed in each such occupation or field of work. An example of this would be females working in cybersecurity. Non-traditional program concentration continues to be an area of challenge in WJCC and a focus of improvement for us as a team. As a division, we annually examine our course offerings to identify potential areas of growth and recognize that many of our non-traditional offerings are taught at New Horizons, which is not reflected in the data above. Non-traditional completers who complete their courses at New Horizons are not included in this number, and this is only reflective of courses in our zoned high schools. In the area of work-based learning, we faced a challenging year last year with changes coming inconsistently and slowly from the VDOE on what counts and didn't count towards this category. With
I hate to interrupt you, but I think that's an important component. That we want to do well by our students. We want to provide strong experiences, but there's a challenge sometimes with communication coming from the state level, and for understanding and awareness, I think it's important that we continue to talk about that. So thank you for mentioning that, Jessica, and it's an area that we want to continue to press on.
Thank you. With the significant decrease in approved experiences, we have been in a rebuilding phase of our work-based learning programming and have been working hard to identify and create increased partnerships across the community. Annually, we strive to grow in the number of industry credentials our students earn. Last school year, there were a total of 2,103 industry credentials earned by WJCC students. On this slide, you can see a breakdown of industry credentials earned by our students in the 24-25 school year, including the overall number of individual students who earned one or more credential. For comparison, I've provided the previous 2 years' data as well. A full list of the different types of credentials taken and earned by WJCC students in 24-25 is available to you in the handout provided. Each year, we are required to submit a career pathways plan of study, aligning specific academic and technical coursework at the secondary and post-secondary level with an identified career cluster and career pathway that meets the needs of industries in the state, region, or local area. This is reflected in Schedule 3 on page 13. Here you can see the last 5 years and plans of study that were updated and submitted to the VDOE. For 26-27, WJCC is submitting a plan of study representing the health science cluster and the therapeutic services career pathway. There are 8 CTE program areas identified within Perkins. Here you can see all 8 areas and where CTE programs are available to WJCC students within each area. Schedules 5 through 10, found on pages 19 through 30, refer to our Perkins-supported program areas and allow us to identify activities we use to improve academic and technical skills of students in Schedule 5, provide students with work-based learning opportunities in Schedule 6, develop, improve, or expand the use of technology in Schedule 7, provide PD to teachers, counselors, or administrators associated with the CTE program in Schedule 8, use performance standards to continue to improve the performance of these CTE programs in Schedule 9, and improve, expand, or modernize each particular program area in Schedule 10. Schedules 11 through 14, found on pages 31 to 35, include narratives providing further explanation and details about our CTE program, the use of data to drive programming decisions, and the information we have already reviewed in this presentation. This is a review of the entitlement of funds over the past several years. You can see that this year's Perkins application is based on the amount of funding we received for the past school year. Once the state determines WJCC's actual allocation, we will submit a grant amendment that aligns with the new funding amount. The state receives their allocation of federal funds and then applies a funding formula that determines what each locality will receive. This formula is based on the number of students who reside in the school division and also takes into account the number of students aged 5 through 17 who are from families below the poverty level for the preceding fiscal year. Schedules 16 through 18, found on pages 36 to 45, are the areas in which we develop the budget for WJCC's Perkins allocation. The percentages indicated above are the breakdown of usage of the entitlement of funds shared on the previous slide. As noted in the slide, we have budgeted 46.3% to go to capital outlay and equipment. These funds are used to refresh labs, provide hardware, such as iPads, 3D printers, and specialized laptop carts for all CTE programs. 48.5% is budgeted to purchase services or services acquired from an outside source. These include professional development, updated software programming, student activities for our special population students, and New Horizons Regional Technical Center. 2.4% has been budgeted for indirect costs and other charges such as conference registration fees, travel and lodging, and professional organization memberships. And 2.8% is budgeted for personal services, which is used for administrative support for CTE credentialing and completer surveys. As a note, the grant does refer to this line as personal services, not personnel, which can cause confusion at times. The largest percentage here is within purchase services. In previous years, capital outlay equipment has been the largest percentage of our expenditures. However, some of the software and programming equipment used is now categorized through purchase services, causing the change in percentage of expenditures. As we continue to grow in our CTE programming, the needs to remain current in our equipment, software, and programming for students and teachers grows as well. And directing funds appropriately to address these needs is in the best interest of students. This concludes our formal presentation of the Carl D. Perkins Local Plan. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Hudson.
I guess just quickly, you mentioned that the students attending New Horizons, those numbers are not included in our numbers. Is there a reason why they're not included?
New Horizons goes through the same process and it's included in their data. So for regional technical centers, they have their own performance standards and reports that they utilize as well.
I do have a question on slide 6 where you were showing the industry credentials, and it looks like we had quite a significant uptick in the last academic year. What would you say has driven that?
I would say increased enrollment. I'd have to go look exactly at the data to see which courses. So increased enrollment. We also expanded the grade levels for economics and personal finance, so that accounted for increased enrollment, not just what classes, but what grade levels could go in to those classes, which could account for some of that as well.
Thank you, Ms. Walter. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm really grateful for the work that Jessica and Melissa and team do related to career and technical education. So I just wanted to mention that there are a lot of moving parts, pardon the pun, but they do a phenomenal job of helping our students with strong experiences.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you so much. We will move on to item 5.04, review purchase request for DJ Montague Elementary School entry area widening.
Mr. Snipes is here to talk with us about what is the spring of operations projects to prepare for the summer of work. And the next number are really operations driven, CIP driven. So Marcellus, thank you for being here and walking us through the widening at DJ.
All right. Good evening, School Board Chair, School Board members, and Dr. Keever. Tonight's proposed agenda item supports Elevation 28 key priority, organizational, and efficiency, and is being brought for your consideration. It is the review of the purchase request for the DJ Montague Elementary School entry area widening. This project was approved in the FY26 CIP with a budget of $163,000. The entrance road at DJ Montague needs to be widened to accommodate increased traffic and improve accessibility. Widening of the road can help manage congestion by providing more space for vehicles, enhancing traffic flow and accessibility. Again, the budget for this project is $163,000, but after design services, our current remaining balance is $128,060 that is remaining for construction. The superintendent recommends that the board review the information and be prepared to vote at the April 21st, 2026 meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Snipes. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Jose.
Why is it just for the entrance and not for an exit also?
The entrance and the exit are synonymous. They are kind of right at the same place. If you've been to DJ, so it's similar. So what we're going to do is we're going to widen one side, which takes you into the entrance, which allows for more people to exit out. It doesn't preclude them from doing work there, but it's going to allow more people to exit as well.
So is there that island in the middle, will that go away so we can, or will that still be there and there's just?
It will still be there to keep some differentiation between entry and exit. What is going to happen is closer to the baseball field, you're going to see a widening there where buses may be able to exit.
Thank you.
There's also, I think, a very significant challenge in the morning traffic or afternoon traffic in terms of pickup entering the property, because it's the left-hand turn off of that road, which I cannot remember at the top of my head. Centerville, right. So the left-hand turn into the area is complicated by the traffic coming the other direction in the right-hand turn. So a widened entryway we found would make it more efficient for our families to get in and out.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Snipes. We will move on to 5.05, review the right-of-way agreement and request for granting of a permanent easement at Bright Beginnings North Campus.
Yes, the administration is requesting the board review the right-of-way agreement and request for granting of a permanent easement at the Bright Beginnings North Campus. Dominion Energy request at no cost, as a matter of fact, at no cost to the schools, we grant them access to convey onto our property a perpetual right for ingress, egress, to lay and construct, operate, and maintain one or more lines of underground conduits or cables. Basically, what this is doing is allowing them to come on the property to either repair or replace any items that that need to be repaired or replaced for construction or afterwards. Again, this is at no cost to the school division. The superintendent recommends that the school board approve the right-of-way agreement and request for permanent easement at 7311 Richmond Road to Virginia Electric and Power Company, and be prepared to vote at the April 21st, 2026 meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Snipes. Any questions? All right, we'll keep on rolling. 5.06, review purchase request for Matthew Whaley Auditorium refurbishment.
Yes, our third proposed agenda item is the review of the purchase request for the Matthew Whaley Auditorium replacement. This project was approved in the FY26 CIP with a total budget of $375,000. And after design services, there is a current remaining balance of $310,890. Again, auditorium refurbishment projects are part of the division's replacement cycle. The auditorium refurbishments are scheduled for every 20 years. Typical refurbishment would include new paint, carpet, seating, curtains, lighting, audio, and/or visual improvements. The plan for this construction project is to begin on June 15th with a substantial completion of August 14th, 2026. Just for your knowledge and edification, we are in conversations with members of the community, of Matthew Whaley community, about the auditorium. We just met with them on Monday to discuss some things that they would like to see and would like to wait. So we are talking about phasing this project over a couple of years to just make sure we get what we want out of that and for the community to get what they want. Again, the superintendent recommends that the board review the information and be prepared to vote at the April 21st, 2026 meeting.
Any questions? I am curious, what's driving a request for phasing? What's driving a request for phasing, or what would be in the different phases?
The phasing request is, again, after our conversations on Monday, people some members of the community, some teachers also would like to see us take our time and make sure that the seating is the correct seating. I think years ago, some of our citizens purchased and placed their placards on the back of the seating. We want to make sure that the seating is what they are, the community is looking for. If any one of you have ever been in Matthew Whaley, you know that seating is, it's not built for those who are now seated in this community now. They're very small. They're built.
They are hard and wooden.
Yes, and that is as well. But we want to make sure we get what's right for the students as well as the community. So
As we've continued to talk about it, I think the first order change is enhancing the lighting and the sound. There also within the scope of the work is some painting, some carpet, and the seating pieces. And as Marcellus and team engage with members of the Matthew Whaley community, both internally and a little bit more broadly, the need for us to be very thoughtful in terms of the process in that space has come into play. And so we're going to make sure we do it appropriately and with the perspective of as many people involved as possible.
Is that typical for communities to be as involved in an auditorium refurbishment in terms of providing feedback on what should be in an auditorium?
I don't think it is from my experience, but I also recognize that Matthew Whaley is a historical marker within our community. In fact, just this weekend I attended a memorial service for a gentleman who's an educational mentor who met his wife some 75 years ago as a student at Matthew Whaley. And the history of the building and the perspective of folks that live within our community, I think, are important to our process. And if we did a simple refurbishment, I'm not sure we would be ensuring that the voices that might have some perspective are being prioritized. I'm not saying that the seating won't change. What I'm saying is that we're going to be really thoughtful about how we approach it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Jose.
I guess just quickly, when you're talking phasing, is it all under still this dollar figure? Or are we looking at phasing next year for an additional $300,000, 2 years from now, an additional $400,000? Or are we still looking at the 310? I think that's remaining.
Right. So the other I think I'll say the other challenge in terms of this particular project or projects as we got into fiscal 26 was the determination made during the budgeting scenario between the city and county in terms of how projects would be funded. And you may recall that there were a number of projects that were in the CIP for fiscal 26 that were city-specific projects that did not get any county funding because the county funded county projects. The city did not fund the full dollar amount for the projects that we had identified at the city level. So there are some projects with less than the full amount of funds that we projected as needing. As an example, the window replacement at Matthew Whaley is a project that is in the CIP that you approved, but did not receive any funding in terms of the city allotment for fiscal 26. So I am in conversation with the interim city manager about the educational reserve fund at the city and being able to see some funds released to allow us to move forward with projects. So I think our hope is that the scope of the work can be handled within the CIP dollar amount that we initially took forward, but we also want to make sure that some of the other projects that are city earmarked in city buildings have the funding that they need as well. So we're going to talk about Berkeley here in a second, and that's another one of those projects that did not receive county funding, and we put some money towards it, but maybe not all the money necessary.
But again, for the auditorium though,
Our goal is to,
if we do, hypothetically, we do lighting and sound this year, and then next year we do the seating, is that still gonna be part of the 300,000 that we're talking about right now?
our goal is to have it within that.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Hodges.
With the idea of phasing it, is there any concern that the project may be more expensive down the line as inflation and prices continue to increase, and then there may actually end up being a need to request additional funding to finish the back half of this? Or
Always. I think that, yes, 100%. That notwithstanding, it's my recommendation as superintendent that we be incredibly thoughtful about how we approach the internal refurbishment of this auditorium. And I just, lighting and sound, absolutely essential. We need to do that right away. I think we can get that done this summer. And it's possible that we can get towards the seating this summer as well. But let's be strategic with how we approach it.
Well, as a parent who has sat through recorder concerts.
Did you say
those
recorder concerts?
Recorder
Yes, ma'am.
concerts. I think the seating and addressing that in a way that accommodates a modern person would be quite helpful.
And maintaining the historical sense of the building itself. Modern and historical is what you're seeking, or just modern?
Something that is supportive of our children and parents and community as they are attending elementary school musical events.
We agree with you.
Yes, Mr. Jose.
Was there any additional approval that we needed to get to do the changes because it's a historical building?
Not on the inside.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Riffle.
Is it appropriate to make an April Fool's joke?
It depends on what it is.
It's not really a joke. People can take it as they want to. We could sell the seats like ballparks do. That's always fun. I'm sure CW would love to put one in their museum. So
Revenue generator.
I don't know.
Revenue generator.
The cop house says he's going to buy 3. He just said it.
We heard it. We hear the mumbles on the mic.
Ready for the next agenda item?
Yes, we can move on from this.
All right.
Laura Lane roof repairs.
The Laurel Lane roof repairs. The review, the purchase request for the Laurel Lane Building 100 roof repair supports Elevation 28 key priority of safety and security. The Laurel Lane partial roof replacement was approved in the FY26 CIP in the amount of $525,000. And again, roof refurbishment projects are part of the division's replacement cycle and are usually scheduled for every 20 to 30 years. This project includes replacing the asphalt shingle roof areas over the 100 building, which is also known as your administration building. The superintendent recommends the board review the project information and be prepared to vote at the April 21st, 2026 meeting.
Great, thank you. Any questions about the roof? I've got a whole other joke about the roof, but the roof is not on
On
fire.
fire. It's not even a joke.
I know, sorry.
That's not-
You can't hold meetings on Wednesdays. It's
not-
Wacky Wednesday with the board.
Yes.
We will move to 5.08,
Yes.
review the purchase request for Toano Middle School glass atrium replacement.
Yes, this is a review of the purchase request, as you mentioned, for the Toano Middle School glass atrium replacement. And if you're wondering where we are talking and what we are referencing is when you walk into the, with the bus, with the kids come in through the bus entrance, there is a glass atrium roof. And we are talking about replacing some of those panels, as well as repairing and sealing some. So not the entire area will be replaced. Again, this was part of the fiscal 26 capital improvement plan, budgeted in the amount of $172,000. And the superintendent recommends the board review the project information and be prepared to vote at the April 21st, 2026 meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Right, 5.09, review purchase request for Berkeley Middle School gym refurbishment.
Yes, gym refurbishments are part of the division's replacement cycle, and we typically, and in the past, have scheduled our gym refurbishment for every 25 years. This project was approved in the FY26 CIP in the amount of $166,600. Our plan at Berkeley Gym is to replace goals as well as the bleachers, as well as the partition that separates both halves of the court. So we won't be doing any painting. That was done previously, and the floors were just refurbished a few years ago. So this will only include bleachers, partitions, and the goals will now be electric rather than, so it'll be easier to and raise the goals. The superintendent recommends the board review the information and be prepared to vote at the April 21st, 2026 meeting.
Thank you so much. Any questions? All right, we'll go to 5.10, review the purchase request for Berkeley Middle School auditorium and gym roof replacement.
Yes, this is the last proposed agenda item for the evening from the operations standpoint. This is for the review and purchase request of the Berkeley Middle School auditorium and gym roof replacement. The Berkeley Middle School auditorium and gym roof replacement was approved in the FY26 CIP. The roof refurbishment projects are part of the division's replacement cycle, and roof refurbishments are scheduled for every 20 to 30 years. The superintendent recommends the board review the information and be prepared to vote at the April 21st, 2026 meeting.
Any questions about this auditorium or gym? Thank you so much. We'll move on to item 6.01, superintendent's transition plan. Dr. Keeper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. I'm excited to share the first of what will be 5 updates on our work outlined in the transition plan that I released in November. As you'll recall, the plan was structured in phases to ensure thoughtful and strategic and sustainable rollout, not everything happening at once. Phase 1 has been about getting started with intention, listening, aligning, and beginning to move key initiatives forward. And tonight you'll see, I hope, early evidence of the work taking shape across the division. By way of reminder, the full transition plan is available on our website. It begins with an introductory letter from me and an overview of the 7 key leadership drivers. We then outlined the methodology used to engage stakeholders over the course of last year, and from that data, we identified emerging themes and advice. In total, there are 32 specific action priority steps in the transition plan, which align to our strategic plan, Elevate to 28. And we are intending to implement this over the course of about 20 months. Why 20 months? Well, it's designed to be done in phases because this work needs to happen in phases. It can't all happen at one time, and sometimes they are overlapping pieces. We also want to ensure that the things are typically benchmarked with when other things are happening across the school division. Here you can see that my second update will be in July, followed by a third update in November, and finishing with the final two updates in April and July of 2027. I anticipate that some of these priority action steps will be included in every update, while others may only appear in some reports. Tonight I'm going to report on 14 of the 32 priority action steps. It's very important to me, and I think it is important to surface that we have a strategic plan that includes 5 priorities, with a key priority really being focused on academic achievement, college and career readiness, and educational equity. The transition plan is, in essence, a plan within the plan in our attempt to ensure that we are advancing both the larger priorities of Elevate 28 while simultaneously addressing the immediate needs identified by stakeholders. Literacy is the most important component of this entire plan, as it serves as the foundation for all student learning. We believe that if we get literacy right, we position our students for success across every content area and every grade level. During phase 1 of the transition, we have increased the number of Title I tutors serving our students. We've expanded targeted support where it is needed most. In addition, we've incorporated additional contractual days for our reading specialist into the proposed 27 fiscal budget. This will allow us to expand and extend their impact and deepen support for students and teachers. We've also prioritized family engagement. Literacy is not simply a school-related item, but one that should involve the entire community. We've hosted 2 literacy-focused events designed to equip families with strategies and tools to support reading at home. On the instructional side, we are modifying the elementary reading SOL testing schedule so that students will complete that test in smaller segments over 2 days. This adjustment is intended to reduce the cognitive fatigue and allow students to better demonstrate what they know when they know it. We're also taking a more strategic, data-driven approach to summer learning. Rather than allocating the same number of summer school slots to each school, we are now using specific student achievement data to determine needs at each of our individual buildings, creating a more systemic and tiered approach to support. And finally, this summer, we will provide literacy-centered professional learning through Camp GPS. These sessions will give our teachers additional opportunities to strengthen their knowledge, refine their instructional practices, and implement research-based literacy strategies that directly benefit our students. I should also mention that you'll note across the top of each of these slides a different coding mark. So T1A is within the first piece of this transition plan. You saw that in the early one. You're going to see those letters and numbers across, but it's a naming convention so that we can try to keep things organized. In addition to our focus on literacy, we are strengthening numeracy by enhancing both instructional practices and support systems across the division. We were awarded 2 math innovation grants, which are helping us equip teachers with effective differentiation strategies to more effectively meet the needs of students at the various skill levels. We hosted a family academy focused on the KIDM math curriculum, providing families with clearer understanding of our instructional approach and how to support learning at home. Similar to the last slide, we've also adjusted the elementary math SOL testing schedule to 2 days and will offer math-focused sessions that run through Camp GPS this summer. Finally, to ensure we have high capacity to sustain high-quality math instruction, we included an additional elementary math coach in our operating budget and extended contractual days for math specialists. Related to the action item on Profile of a Learner, which is T1B, this is one of the most important long-term efforts within the plan, and we are working to develop that profile of a learner. This work is centered on defining the knowledge, skills, and dispositions we want every student to demonstrate by the time they graduate from WJCC. It will serve as a unifying vision for teaching and learning and help us ensure coherence across classrooms, schools, and grade levels. We've partnered with AASA, which is the Superintendent's Association, the National Superintendent's Association, to help guide us through this collaborative process. Starting this month, we will host a series of structured sessions with our design team, which consists of approximately 100 stakeholders, including employees, students, parents, and community members who have been invited to help co-create the core tenets of our profile, ensuring diversity of thought and perspective as we shape this vision together. Over the summer and into the next phase, we will continue to gather feedback from across our community to ensure the final profile reflects our shared values and aspirations. Ultimately, the profile of a learner will anchor our instructional framework, guide curriculum and assessment decisions, and help us ensure that every student graduates prepared, not only academically, but with the skills and attributes needed to thrive in our community. Related to career and technical education, T1G, we are continuing to expand career pathways and real-world learning opportunities. A central component in advancing this work is our participation in a statewide 2-year collaborative learning network called Virginia Leads Innovation, VALIN. Our WJCC team is comprised of school division leaders and high school educators, and they have been visiting other school divisions to learn how they designed and implemented innovative career pathways and learning opportunities. Our team will utilize this information to begin to draft a proposed high school redesign plan for future consideration. We're also working to build broader community awareness around this effort. The open viewing of the documentary Multiple Choice at William & Mary sparked a larger community conversation around rethinking traditional high school models and expanding CTE pathways based on student interest and regional needs. Meanwhile, we've also enhanced student opportunities for field-based learning. As an example, Health Career Days was extended to 2 days, allowing students to tour 2 different medical facilities and broaden their understanding. This summer, we're launching AI in Action, which is a career connection camp where rising 8th graders will utilize generative AI to tandem with a career expert to solve an industry-related problem of practice. JROTC programming, T1H. We have heard our community loud and clear in the call for JROTC and providing that option to our students. I'm proud to say that we have taken the initial steps towards establishing one of our schools as a JROTC host for a program. We've submitted applications to multiple programs, and we have had site visits with the Marine Corps, and we have one upcoming with the Air Force to better understand program expectations, structure, and student experiences. I am incredibly excited that we are just on the cusp of being able to bring one to WJCC. More news to come. Student leadership T2B, developing student voice and leadership continues to be a key focus of this work, and it's grounded in the belief that students should not only experience school, but help to shape it. It's a core belief that I have and have always had in terms of serving in public education. Throughout the month of February, we hosted our 2nd annual Student Voices Tour, which we reported on just last month. We heard from directly nearly 300 students, and those conversations provided valuable insight into the experiences and continue to inform our decisions moving forward. Coming up on the 18th of April, that's a Saturday, we'll host our first Impact Through Service, which will create opportunities for high school students to participate in various hands-on service projects across Williamsburg and James City County. Through these experiences, students not only give back, but also develop skills in collaboration, leadership, and civic responsibility, which enforces, or better yet, reinforces the idea that leadership is rooted in service. Soon after the 18th of April, we'll host our first Leadership Connect event, which is on the 22nd of April. This is designed to bring students together with local leaders, including government partners, to engage in meaningful dialogue and build leadership skills. This day-in-the-life shadow experience will help students bridge their understanding of what it means to serve the community through public service, as well as what it really looks like behind the scenes. And then finally, looking ahead, we're going to host our 2nd Student Leadership Academy this summer. Approximately 75 student leaders from all 3 of our high schools will come together to learn about leadership, share ideas to enhance student belonging, and build positive school culture. With respect to behavior supports, T2D, we're committed to ensuring our students have the skills and supports to stay focused, engaged, and make stronger choices. Starting with our youngest learners, we've added early intervention behavior positions to the team and look to expand those roles next school year. We've also created a more streamlined approach to non-traditional programs at the Restorative Center, creating opportunities for students to transition from one program to another with the support they need to matriculate back into the comprehensive setting. Additionally, Sasha Robinson, one of our behavior specialists, is leading a co-ed conflict resolution group at Lafayette High School as a pilot program for identified students. And at the division level, we're enhancing our tiered supports and monitoring systems through the use of individualized student action plans. Our Code of Conduct Committee is working to design an administrator's guide, which will be shared during our summer leadership conference to help build common language and consistency with decision-making and disciplinary dispositions. Finally, Hanover Research is conducting a third-party audit of our discipline data and practices as a part of our membership with them. Their evaluation report will help inform our continuous improvement efforts in this area. With respect to the compensation study, the next 5 slides, are really related to human capital and positive culture. We've integrated the second phase of the recommendations from the comp study into the proposed FY27 budget. These include actionable progress in improving consistency between steps on the teacher scale, providing specific adjustments for identified steps and grades on the unified scale, revising contractual hours for specific positions to help make us more competitive with other school divisions, adjusting the ranges on the unified scale, incorporating career ladders within our operations department, and standardizing titles throughout the organization. In the area of employee wellness, we have identified wellness liaisons for each school and or department who will receive a stipend for helping promote both division and site-based wellness activities. In a series of meetings earlier this year, our wellness liaison helped to create a mission statement and theory of action for improving employee wellness across 6 dimensions: physical, nutritional, social emotional, occupational, environmental, and financial. This comprehensive approach to health and well-being is called Thrive 365, and we've already started planning and promoting monthly focus areas and activities. This month, we'll focus on financial wellness as we launch our Maximize Your Money webinar series, and May will focus on social emotional well-being, where we are going to host Walking Williamsburg events, encouraging employees to get some fresh air and develop new friendships with fellow employees. Finally, we look forward to kicking off our summer with our Thrive 365 summer celebration on June 9th. This is a high-energy employee wellness and benefits fair, which will offer exciting opportunities for employees to learn about benefits options during open enrollment, engage in fun activities, and win some prizes as they celebrate the culmination of another successful school year. This event is being held on one of our early release days from 1 to 5. We'll get you more details as it draws nearer. Staffing, recruitment, and marketing, T3E. We have also enhanced our recruitment and marketing efforts over the past few months. My hope is that you have seen promotions for our job fairs and now hiring advertisements on electronic bulletin boards at some of our local dining establishments, as we have contracted with One Fish, Two Fish to get that marketing out there and expand our reach. We've also launched a new modern look to our recruitment materials with our Purpose Starts Here campaign. Human resources and communication teams are also collaborating to improve our external website, which should go live soon. As part of our efforts to think more innovatively about career pathways, we've partnered with William & Mary to pilot a teacher in residence for the 26-27 school year. The teacher we have hired is pursuing her master's degree in special education and will complete a 1-year paid internship with us as part of her teaching experience. Let me also mention that we're creating career pathway opportunities for our current high school students who, with interns currently working within our operations team and our Teachers for Tomorrow cadets serving in our elementary schools. It is our intent to offer these young professionals contracts to work for the school division as they move into the workforce. And finally, we know that alternative pathway teaching candidates bring a wealth of experience to the classroom They are serving as both teacher and learner as they join our team. To that end, we have planned several enhancements for our alternative pathway educators to ensure they are making progress towards licensure. Leadership visibility in schools is vital, and it speaks to our employees' request to have central office leaders and school board members more visible in our schools. In response to that request, I've made it a priority to be present in every school by attending events, visiting classrooms, and providing updates during staff meetings in both the fall and the spring, as well as intentionally engaging directly with our employees in meetings, in trainings, and other functions. I'm also grateful for your efforts as school board members to increase the number of school board member visits at schools and events. I know your presence and the authentic desire to hear directly from our employees is both valued and appreciated. A few of our central office teams have also conducted listening sessions at schools to gather specific feedback, human resources, technology, and curriculum and instruction. I truly believe that we are shifting the culture to ensure we are making decisions not in isolation, but in fact with consistent engagement from our employees. With respect to employee recognition, as we strive to elevate the ways we celebrate and recognize our employees this year, we redesigned the Employee of the Year selection process to include more standardized and inclusive practices. We also hosted a special reception for them prior to their recognition and look forward to celebrating with them in a more formal setting the Impact Awards on May the 6th. Additionally, we have recently launched 2 new campaigns, including our Faces of the Front Lines video highlights, offering a behind-the-scenes look at the valued team members who serve on the front lines. And just this week, we rolled out our Is It Friday Yet campaign, an opportunity for employees to submit a shout-out video to fellow employees who have helped them get to Friday at some point during the year. To encourage participation, we are giving away tickets to an education-centered comedy show entitled Is It Friday Yet? And it's coming to a theater in Richmond later this month. I've also had the opportunity during my visits with school staffs to recognize employees for their years of service, 20, 25, and 30-year marks, some even more. It's been incredibly impactful for me to give out these awards to these staff members in front of their colleagues, and it's been just really heartwarming for me. I parenthetically had a chance to provide or present an award to a 45-year staff member at Hornsby who works in our cafeteria, and she held back her tears as I presented it to her in front of her work colleagues, and it was probably the best part of my week. School level advisory committees and structures. We have worked with principals to establish some expectations for 3 advisory structures in every school: a school planning council, a principal advisory council, and a student advisory council. These groups are designed to ensure that families, staff, and students each have meaningful voice in their school level decision making. School planning council would include employees, students, and parents and focus on our school improvement efforts. The principal's advisory council will provide direct feedback loop for staff, and the student advisory council will elevate student voice within each building. All principals are hosting student advisory structures this spring and preparing to integrate all 3 advisory councils in the fall. To ensure transparency in how we are performing related to our key performance indicators, or KPIs, we have updated our interactive data dashboard with data from the 25-26 school year, developed an infographic that includes key performance indicators, and also made enhancements to our Elevate 28 website. We believe that has made it more accessible and user-friendly for both internal and public audiences. At the same time, we're conducting a division-wide data inventory to ensure our systems are aligned, accurate, and providing information we need to make informed decisions. This work will help inform the internal process review that will be conducted in Phase 2 of the plan. As we look ahead to Phase 2, we will continue to build on strong foundation established over the first several months. The priority areas you see here represent the next set of focused action steps, including work related to our organizational structure, student screen time, graduate action plans, elementary planning, professional learning, student storytelling, and internal process review. I do want to briefly highlight that first item. As part of our broader commitment to being student-centered, collaborative, and strategic, we are continuing to examine our central office structures and supports to best serve schools. Over the coming weeks and months, you will likely see some adjustments aimed at strengthening our alignment and improving service to schools, maximizing our collective impact in support of teaching and learning. Many of the other efforts listed are also underway and are on track for meaningful progress or even completion by the end of the school year. Phase 2 will allow us to deepen this work and expand implementation. I shared a lot with you. We are proud of the work that we're doing, but we know we have a great deal to accomplish. I'm going to pause there and take any questions that you may have.
Yes, Ms. Hunley.
I'm just going to jump ahead. Can you, what does student storytelling look or sound like? That's the only one I didn't recognize.
Sure.
What it was.
We want to utilize our students as storytellers related to the great work happening within WJCC, whether that be deputizing them with parameters to help us share some of the great work on social media, or being the voice behind some of our presentations.
Yes, Mr. Hodges.
Well, first, Dr. Keever, thank you for the presentation. Very, very detailed, not surprising. I want to ask for a little more on the Valen Innovation Team as it regards to CTE, and that's on page 8. You had mentioned that there was a future high school plan that they were going to work on after this 2-year process of Valen. I was just kind of curious about the timeline and what you expect that to look like once that's complete.
That's a great question. I think that my expectation for what it looks like is unfolding as that group works together. Dr. Worley, I think in the early fall, provided an update to the board in terms of our participation with Valen. To me, it's an important learning experience for staff members at each of our high schools to consider what's happening in their school and then what are some of the strengths that are happening in other schools across the region and the Commonwealth in terms of the high school experience. Having served as a high school principal and then supervised high school principals, I feel like high school works for some of our students, but not all of our students. And how do we design structures in terms of our high school education experience that works for all of them? Let me see if Dr. Worley might have other things to add from that. No? Yeah, we will keep the board.
Nice response. April Fool's, Kathy.
I think each of the schools is considering what could work best within our school, and then we, through the umbrella of Valen, are working together collectively to say, what are the options in front of us? Examples include some school divisions use an academy learning model where specific interest-based learning experiences are available in specific schools. We've talked about the idea of bringing on JROTC. We've talked about the idea of expanding career and technical education by way of building something within our community. So it's really understanding what best meets the needs of students and how can we deliver that within the structures that we have now or reconfigure the structures we have to better meet those needs.
Awesome. And then one other thing that caught my eye that I was just curious about, I'm curious about the co-ed conflict resolution group pilot down at Lafayette. Can you give me a little more details about that?
I can, and then I'm going to probably defer to Dr. Brown some as well. One of the things that we know works well for our young people is when they can talk with each other about things that are on their mind and strengthening relationships. And we have some really talented staff who can help lead those conversations, and Adam may want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Sasha Robinson, who's one of our behavior specialists, supports Lafayette, and she found through her work supporting that school, whether it's through principal or administrative referral for specific student needs or just working with specific groups or working with the Restorative Center, she approached us with the idea of bringing students that she continuously works with on a daily basis together to talk through whether it's concerns they have or ways to help support goals that they have. They're going to be going on a trip soon to Norfolk State to visit the college. They're potentially looking at doing an escape room. So it's just team building. It's the way we work through conflict and then identify supports for students who may need additional needs.
Very cool. Thank you.
Other questions? I'm just going to take the signs as we've seen so much of the work that you've been doing along the way. So I think it's pretty impactful to see it all in one place.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do also want to mention that we will be presenting to the board in May and June some updates related to Elevate 28 and some of the specific goal areas there. So the implementation of the transition plan is not designed to replace the important work happening within the strategic plan. As I mentioned, it is part and parcel of that strategic plan. So you can anticipate in May and then again in June some key updates to Elevate 28 and progress being made.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will move on to policies. This school board has gotten a little lazy. We haven't had a policy
No, they
since
weren't.
last
They
year.
weren't. They break us in slowly.
I'm really pleased to welcome Dr. Brown to the policy conversation.
We will review item 7.01, review revisions to policy BCF school board committees.
It's the moment you all have been waiting for. So good evening at this point, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Keever. Today we're bringing 4 policies for review, the first being BCF school board committees. The policy was last revised in September of 2024. As part of this review, we conducted a comparison with corresponding VSBA model policies. The first recommended revision is in reference to the Student Advisory Committee being removed. This is based on the board's support for the formation of the Superintendent Student Advisory Committee. And we've heard some great feedback from students in recent school board meetings for those who've been able to attend. Second, redundant language was removed in line 18 to improve clarity and streamline this policy. It's been reviewed for alignment with Virginia Code and approved by legal counsel. And the policy continues to outline the structure and function of school board committees, including advisory, standing, and special committees. And we're happy to answer any questions you may have about policy BCF.
Any questions about this particular policy? Nope. All right, we can move on to 7.02, review revisions to policy DLC, travel and expense reimbursement.
Thank you. This policy was last revised in May 2021, and as part of this review, we compared DLC to the corresponding VSBA model policies and reviewed it for alignment with current practice. You will see that language has been added in line 13, which allows for regulations and procedures consistent with this policy. In addition, cross-references have been updated and minor edits were made to ensure alignment with VSBA model policy, and it has been reviewed by legal counsel and approved as presented. The updates have been made to the corresponding regulation, DLCR, to provide additional clarity around travel procedures, including procurement, card usage, trip cancellations, and reimbursement practices. And overall, these revisions reflect our current practices. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this policy.
Are there any questions about this? Okay. We'll do the 7.03, review revisions to policy, is that EI or EL? EI?
EI, yes.
EI, insurance management.
This policy was last revised in January 2021, and as part of this review, staff compared the policy to the corresponding VSBA model policy. No content changes are being recommended, and the updates you see are limited for formatting for consistency with other policies, including the addition of the most recent review date. It has been reviewed by legal counsel and approved as presented, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this policy.
Any questions? All right, we will move on to 7.04, review retirement of policy EDC, authorized use of school-owned materials.
This policy was last revised in January 2021, and as part of this review, there is no longer a corresponding VSBA model policy. This is due to it being retired with the understanding that the content is addressed within other model policies. The content currently found in policy EDC is already addressed in several existing policies within WJCC, including policy GA related to employee conduct, as well as policy KG and regulation KGR for community use of facilities, and policy DN and regulation DNR for disposal of surplus items. This has been reviewed by legal counsel who agrees with the recommendation for retirement, and based on that, it is our recommendation to retire this policy. This proposed retirement also supports our goal to streamline our policies and eliminate redundancies that currently exist. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about this policy.
Any questions for Dr. Brown? All right, that was a nice warm-up.
Thank you.
The policies. Felt like that was a stretch to the right and a stretch to the left. All right, we'll move on to our action items. 8.01, approval of personnel actions. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the personnel actions as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Hosang. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Ms. Aller?
Mr. Hosang.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Riffle.
Aye.
Dr. Cavazos.
Aye.
Ms. Chen.
Aye.
Mr. Hodges.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye. We will move on to 8.02, approval of 2026 VSBA Showcasing Innovation and Award Submission. May I have a motion?
I move to approve the 2026 VSBA Showcasing Innovation Award submission as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Chen. May I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Hunley. Ms. Aller?
Ms. Chen.
Aye.
Mr. Hodges.
Aye.
Mr. Hosang.
Aye.
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Riffle.
Aye.
Dr. Cavazos.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye. And we will move to item 8.03, approval of calendar recommendations for school year 2027-2028.
Madam Chair, we are bringing back to you a recommendation for the 27-28 calendar. We did an initial presentation in the beginning of the month of March, and Ms. Wall then, who has worked with the calendar committee, did a survey to get some community feedback. We want to share with you the outcome of that and formalize our recommendation and ask that you take that up for a vote this evening. Cara, welcome and thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, school board members, and Dr. Keever. As Dr. Keever had alluded to when we last met at the March work session, I shared the academic calendar work group's work to that point, including a presentation, there we go, of the work group's proposed 27-28 academic calendar. Since that time, as was discussed, we've surveyed stakeholders, Wednesday's rough for me too, and the work group reviewed the survey feedback. By the end of this presentation, I will share the administration's recommendation for the 27-28 calendar and ask for the board's consideration and action. Via email and text, we invited families and staff to participate in a survey on the proposed calendar. The survey contained 3 questions. The first, as seen on the screen, asked participants to select one of 4 options to share their response to the proposed 27-28 academic calendar. When combined, 83% of staff and nearly 79% of families expressed positivity toward the proposal. I would also like to acknowledge current 6th through 10th grade students were extended a survey invitation via email. Of the 27 students who responded, 24, or 89%, also expressed positivity. The second survey question was open-ended and asked respondents to share general thoughts on the proposed calendar. Like every year, we received feedback, often conflicting, on nearly every month, week, or date on the calendar. While some would prefer to start the school year in early to mid-August, some would rather start in September. While some would like student holidays or staff CLP days to be eliminated completely, some would like the placement to continue at key intervals throughout the calendar. The open-ended feedback, however, presents an opportunity for us to address some of the questions and explain some of the parameters under which the work group built the proposal. While we acknowledge a student academic calendar could be composed of 990 instructional hours, the foundation of WJCC's calendar has been 180 instructional days. Teacher contracts are composed of 203 total days. Student holidays are teacher contract days. Though we explored alternatives last year, several school divisions in the Commonwealth, WJCC included, must close schools on the Friday before Labor Day. Some feedback had suggested that Friday could be an instructional day or a staff contractual day, but by code we aren't able to do that. Some survey participants suggested spring break could fall elsewhere in the calendar, be it in March, aligned with Easter, or some other placement. For consistency in planning and in support of our regional partnerships, spring break has been aligned for the past several years across Region 2 as the first full week of April. We have not had a recent practice of having students in school on Election Day, and that is maintained in the 27-28 calendar. As presented, March 7th, 2028, drew some comments from respondents who may not have connected that that date is in fact an election day. They wondered if the student holiday could either be moved to the Monday or Friday of that week. And finally, early release days do count as instructional days. The final survey question was also open-ended and asked respondents for specific thoughts related to the 2-week winter break and placement of a student holiday or staff CLP day immediately following winter break on Monday, January 3rd. While some respondents wondered about the 2 full 5-day weeks at winter break, the majority of the comments on the topic were favorable. And related to January 3rd, many staff members expressed positivity around the opportunity to reset before students return from winter break. Families offered mixed opinions, some expressing positivity around the additional day that could be used for travel, while others expressed concerns about their own work schedules and challenges their family may face with an additional student holiday following the 2-week winter break. The work group considered the survey responses and maintained its recommendation to have January 3rd as a student holiday and staff CLP day. Administration appreciates the work group's evaluation of the data, but in consideration of family feedback and student impact, is recommending January 3rd as a student attendance day. As a result, the August through December 2027 calendar remains the same as originally presented last month. In January, you can see January 3rd is not designated as a student holiday or staff CLP day. Instead, Thursday, January 27th and Friday, January 28th are designated as student holidays and staff CLP days in alignment with the end of the first semester. The version that you had previously seen had Friday, January 28th as a CLP day. The 27th is the movement of January 3rd to that location. The second half of the year remains unchanged from the draft calendar presented last month. And at this point, I'm happy to answer any questions and ask the board to consider and approve the academic calendar for 27-28 as presented.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wall. Questions and comments from the board about the administration's proposed calendar? Okay, seeing none, are you ready for the vote?
You need a motion.
I know, I just want to see if they're ready for me to move to the motion. Okay. May I have someone to make the motion?
I move, Madam Chair, to adopt the approval of the calendar recommendation for school year 2027-2028.
As presented. Thanks, Ms. Chen. I heard her first. Ms. Aller?
Mrs. Hunley.
Aye.
Mr. Riffle.
Aye.
Dr. Kavazos.
Aye.
Ms. Chen.
Aye.
Mr. Hodges.
Aye.
Mr. Hosang.
Aye.
Mrs. Donner.
Aye. I just want to thank the calendar committee, all those who put time into it, and we really appreciate all of that, and so thank you all for serving in that capacity. We will move on to 9.01 board member comments. I will start on this side of the room with Mr. Hodges.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was prepared to use my board member comments tonight to discuss a research paper that I recently read about AI in academic settings. However, in light of recent events, I will instead keep my comments brief about a different topic. I want to extend my deepest condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones of the young man in our community who tragically lost his life. This loss is heartbreaking, and it has deeply affected many people across Williamsburg and James City County. And incidents like this are not something our community expects to face, which is part of why this tragedy has been so shocking. It is a painful and sobering reminder of how fragile life can be. And my hope is that everyone affected by this tragedy is surrounded by comfort, support, and healing in the days ahead. And I hope that as a community, we never have to endure something like this again. That concludes my comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Mr. Hosang.
Yes, Madam Chair. I'd first like to wish all of our employees, students, families a happy Easter for Easter coming up. I hope the families and students and employees all enjoy the spring break also. I'll start off with my bi-monthly appeal request to have the board fund JROTC and lacrosse for next school year. I'm not sure about my other board members. I know I've received multiple emails from individuals who have requested to assist our school division to receive JROTC. I know Dr. Keever and the administration has been working diligently trying to get this into our system. I know Dr. Keever already mentioned it. Some meetings coming up. But if there's anything that we can do to get this to take place in the next school year, I'm all for that. I think our school system needs to have that, especially how we're located near multiple military bases. I'd also like to, again, put the plug in for lacrosse. I'm not sure if my other board members have received emails recently from students, from coaches, from parents requesting that we get lacrosse into our next budget. I know York County has recently proposed their budget, and they do not have lacrosse funded in their current budget. I say we take the bull by the horns at this point and we lead this area. We show other districts that we are going to lead, that we are going to be the first ones to have lacrosse in our area. I think that would show our students, our families who have come to us repeatedly asking for lacrosse, that we are listening to them, and that we are trying to adhere to what they want. And again, I've already mentioned previously how important it is to students to have an extracurricular activity like lacrosse or like any sport to do or to have. I know the Board of Supervisors, I haven't seen anything from the City of Williamsburg, but I know the Board of Supervisors didn't approve our additional request for funding for JROTC or for lacrosse. However, they did approve the funding of Cooley Field in their capital improvement plan. And though I did not necessarily agree with the superintendent at the time, but he felt that we needed to resurface Cooley Field before we could vote or move forward with lacrosse. Well, we've got your wish, Dr. Keever, at least at this point. The supervisors are funding the resurfacing of Cooley Field. So now it's our turn. The supervisors, I think, have put the ball back into our court to say, okay, school board, what are you going to do? We've done what you've asked us to do. We are resurfacing Cooley Field. Now it's up to you. Are we going to do what we've said in the past and give our students the opportunity to play lacrosse or not? And again, the Board of Supervisors may not have talked about this, they may not have looked at it this way, but I see this as our test as to whether we're going to go through with what we've put forward in the past, as to if we can get Cooley Field resurfaced, then we can go forward with lacrosse. Well, it seems like step one is taking place. We need to move forward with step two. Again, I've put a proposal forward at our last board meeting. If any other board member has a proposal of how we can fund both JROTC and lacrosse, please put it forward so we can consider it. But at this point, I think that's our only option to consider in moving forward with both of these programs. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hosang. Ms. Chen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to wish everyone a safe and restful spring break coming up. And I've been trying to, during my board comments, to share just one new thing that I've learned or seen at each of the school visits that I've done. In the last week, I've actually been to Laurel Lane Elementary School twice. Mrs. Hundley and I had the great pleasure of visiting and walking around and observing students and teachers engaged in learning. And then what I wanted to share specifically, something sort of new-ish, when I went for the second time was just with Mr. Riffle. And yesterday we went to, this is now the third annual visit, but the Lafayette High School International Club, which is composed of, I think it's one of the biggest clubs at Lafayette High School, and they have 24 home countries, so students that represent and were born in 24 different countries from around the world, India, Vietnam, Philippines, Jordan, Turkey, Afghanistan, Germany, Italy, France, Morocco, Congo, Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador. I can go on and on. They were all gathered together and went to read to elementary school students at Laurel Lane Elementary School, and they were the star of the show. There is no single person who could read to elementary school kids that would earn the love of those kids as much as these high school students. They were incredible. They went to pretty much all the classrooms and read to the kids. In one classroom, a young man was reading, and it was a self-contained sped classroom, and he started reading, and the student climbed up into his lap, and he just kept reading and was engaging with her, and I just thought it was a really great day. So that was something great at Laurel Lane Elementary School that we got to be a part of. At my recent visit to Lafayette High School, which was the same day, actually, we walked around with Mr. Townsend, and I got to see 3 new classes that I'd never seen before at any of my previous visits to Lafayette. So I saw a CTE class taught by Mr. Claycomb. The kids were doing an AutoCAD project. It was a technical drawing class. And he also teaches 6 other classes. So if you can just take that in for a minute, 6 classes, 6 different preps. And he's got engineering, computer science, and he was just great. We talked to him for a little bit. And then I observed Mr. Bellamy's chemistry class, and longtime and beloved Spanish teacher, Miss DePaula, her Spanish 4 class. So I had not had a chance to see her students or her class yet, so that was very nice. And at Clara Bird Baker Elementary School, Dr. Cavazos and I, we had a very open and honest conversation with the principal, Mr. Hurley, which focused on data and how we can try to really incorporate more data into our meetings and our visits and just our knowledge in general. And we talked about specific groups and targeted support for those groups. He bragged about his very strong literacy scores, which we were quite impressed with. And we discussed the good, the bad, and the ugly of benchmark, the pain points of transitioning to year 1 of KIDM, and his ideas of next year for pushing more SPED inclusion kids into the general larger cohorts or peers. So I really appreciated that conversation that we had with him. And then lastly, War Hill High School with Mrs. Donner. And Mrs. Newcomb took us around, and I had heard about this class, and I'd wanted to see it. I'd never had a chance to see it, and I didn't realize that it was right next door to one of my favorite classes at War Hill, which is the biomedical science class. But War Hill has a veterinary science class. And they had a couple dogs in there, so we got to visit, well, I got to visit with the dogs. Mrs. Donner did not come into the room with me. She watched from a distance. And they do pet fostering, and I kind of just didn't want to go. The dogs were so cute. And then the last thing I'll say at War Hill, something new that I'd never done and I'd also heard about, is the black box at War Hill High School. So we got to observe some students performing their student-run play, 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. And lastly, I'll say big thank you to Mrs. Ruth Larson from the Board of Supervisors and Miss Stacy Kernschier from City Council for joining us on these school visits. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chen. Dr. Cavazos.
Oh, lovely. I'm going to make this relatively short. First and most importantly, I wanted to thank Dr. Kiever for his comments about literacy being a very important concept and that it was a major component of learning. And I really appreciate your passion and your comments regarding literacy because it's obviously the most important topic in my mind. And I think JROTC is behind us. I think that's going to happen. I've not spoken to Mr. Kelly, but I'm sure he looked at us very favorably to get us where we were. And it's really interesting that Army hadn't been talked about in any of the other recent conversations about JROTC. And they're the ones who came from the back and ran and finished the line. So congratulations. Just two quick comments about lacrosse. Number one, 0.001%. That figure was used again at another Board of Supervisors meeting, and I am confident that Ms. Ewing is a very creative money person who can figure out if we don't get the extra money, she can find $225,000. Thank you, Mrs. Ewing. Oh, happy Easter.
Mrs. Hunley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One thing, when we went to Laurel Lane, we got to see a level up class where we didn't know which ones were kindergartners and which ones were the Bright Beginning students because they were about the same height. And so they had a story about what the Bright Beginning students would anticipate happening in kindergarten. And then they got to ask questions and the kindergartners got to answer the questions. And then she paired them up to have the kindergartners give a tour to the Bright Beginning students. And this little baby took this little girl's hand and went over to the cool down corner, and there's a video, I posted it, and she says, "This is where you go when you have big emotions." And she just used those words. And then if you need help, and she was showing her all the little fidget things they have. Kindergarten in the month of March, that was impressive. And they knew that their classroom and how to take them around. So I thought that was really a great thing to do. Don't forget to see the plays. Middle schools have theirs now. I did get to see at James Blair Girls and Guys. And what's interesting, there was 20 actors, but 16 were girls and only 4 were guys. But they had their hair in ponytails and they all had suits on. So, but it was interesting that there was more. But it was very good. And I was happy to see the lighting and the sound. Because I remember the first year that I came and there was a pole there with the lighting right in front. I was like, oh my goodness. So they are working on that and it's looking really good. And they had chairs that kind of, they weren't the cushiony chairs we're used to in the other auditoriums, but they were not that bad. And then the last thing, 6 years ago, a parent sent me a screenshot of 6 years ago when I was reading on Zoom because we were all during COVID, and that's how we read to children. I don't know what happened in the other grades. I know in kindergarten, I was the one tasked because technology was not my best thing for doing voice overlays and stuff, but I was tasked at finding a book, finding materials or some kind of activity to do with the book and do that. So it was really pleasurable for us, to me, to go to the different schools for Read Across America because I know reading just doesn't start in school, which people think. It really should start at home, really putting that child in your lap. I remember kindergarten when we were able to hold children, like everybody got a different turn to sit in the teacher's lap while she read. But that was eons ago. But there is something about children hearing story and you being able to stop and have comments and ask questions. And even on the screenshot that parent sent me, kids were glued. They were glued to the screen and glued to the book. And when we read to students, every classroom I could tell you that we went in, they were glued to the book. And so I had brought 2 books, one called The Turnip and one called Cozy. I wasn't sure about the weather, so I let them pick. Most of them picked the one about the turnip. And there were Bright Beginning students. Because I brought both books, I had these little characters in a bag, so they wanted to see the characters, so I would take them out. So the characters in Cozy were Arctic characters. By about taking out about the 3rd character, the Bright Beginning students were looking at the coverings on those animals and going, that's an Arctic animal. Now these children didn't know anything about Alaska, didn't know anything about, but they were able to remember what I said about the covering. So reading and communicating with kids is very, 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 very important. And then I like the fact that some of us have gotten letters from kids we read to because they have not only done that, but they connected the reading to writing. And those 2 things should have hand in hand. And this one student made a turnip and said, thank you for reading the turnip, and was going to have their parent buy them a turnip in the grocery store. The kids had never seen a turnip. and they didn't know what it tastes like. I told them it was bitter, but somebody's at Food Lion with their kid, and their kid's making them buy a turnip. And just the characters and books can bring things to life, and you can do so many activities that way, and that's why I like the hands-on part. Now, I wasn't able to stay there and let the kids play with the characters, but because I subbed one day this week, I did the same book. These children had taken, without me saying anything, they had an alphabet thing that ran along the wall, no, colors. They had started taking the animals and putting them by sorting them by color. And then another child said, I wonder which ones eat meat and which ones eat vegetables and plants. And they just started doing that from a simple book that was read. So we take reading for granted. We need to do more of it. And I hope to see that we get back to reading throughout the day. And I think it just will foster the love of reading has to come early on, from infancy on. And then we just have to continue with it. And those are my comments, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mrs. Hundley. Mr. Riffle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start with some stuff Ms. Hundley and I did. We did Read Across America Month, and it just reminded me, and I think I talked about it last meeting, but I actually just sit into a class when Ms. Hundley actually read a book, which, I don't know. I've never been in a kindergarten class with Ms. Hundley, so she's a very commanding, warm authority when she's reading the books, and I just wanted to speak to how we're very lucky to have board members who have experiences like that. I read the books and everyone looks at me and doesn't ask me questions and stuff, or they ask me questions like, "Why is your hair like that?" And Miss Hundley has figures and kids are very engaged in the book, and but it was cool. I mean, I just was appreciative of the moment, and that it's important that our students feel seen in those experiences, and when we visit, the guest is exciting and it is fun, and so similar to when we went with the Rams with the Lafayette students at Laurel Lane. I did not know we were going to watch other people read, which is I guess I should read the calendar more. I just was arriving and be all right, I'm here to read with the International Club. And this student was yeah, we read the book, you just sit there and watch. I was like, all right, man, chill. But I was his name was Brendan. He was very funny. He read a book that had no pictures, and I was this is going to go interestingly. And the book is very funny. It's very comedical in nature, and it's meant to engage their students and make it's a script type book. But nonetheless, I think as the students read, students were able to ask questions and they were engaged in a way that it feels similar to when we guest visited, but it's really cool to see students who went to Laurel Lane speaking to students that are in a class. There was a student I was watching read, was in a class, he had his teacher was his fourth grade teacher, and he was reading to that same class, and it's that's pretty powerful stuff that and it's very unique things that our school division does. And I know we do a senior walk and stuff, but some students ask when will they come back to their elementary school, and one of the seniors literally teared up. She was soon, but in a cap and gown, and it's which is great. It's good to know that our students know the traditions of WJCC, and our students feel seen by each other, whether the grade levels are different, but to have clubs that interact in that way it's just a slice of what really happens in WJCC on a daily basis. And I feel I spent the whole day with Miss Chen, and then we went to the home base of the Rams, and we got to see Mr. Townsend talk about his experiences as the new principal there, and changing things, and the work with the herds and all those type of stuff. And it was a very big flashback for me. We went to Spanish and chemistry, as Miss Chen had mentioned, and they were not my best subjects in high school. And the Spanish teacher refused she asked me questions in Spanish, and it was awful. It was just, and then in chemistry, we walked in the room, and it was a logarithmic theory, and I was this is the worst. It was just not good. We were just oh, it's just simple algebra, and he was yeah, it's algebra, but they have to understand the terms and form processes, and it was they got it. I feel maybe the teachers there are just in a better position than I was, because everyone seemed very engaged, and they really liked the subject matter they were talking about, and the students were kind of giggling at us as we were just talking with the teacher, and also they were interacting with their projects and things. So it's cool to see them use their skills and go about complex math and applied sciences, and of course speaking Spanish, which is learning a instrument without the dictionary. So it's very hard. And I just was appreciative of the moments, and good to hear from legacy type teachers in our division, as well as teachers who clearly are like sought out by the private sector of the CTE teacher. I mean, his certifications were out of this world, his clearances and things. It's important to know that we have teachers who do a job because they care about our community and they care about the people behind them, and not just because they have a check somewhere, but they get paid, right? But they like what they do. And teaching 6 different classes is just a snapshot of like what other CTE teachers do, right? The certifications in classes, and of course other parts of our division do similar type classics, structures, and it's a lot. It's a very demanding work field for our educators. So I just want to appreciate them, and today's like paraprofessional support day. So shout out to our paras and all the work they do to support our students. With extra time in testing, or helping students just feel their big emotions, right? Like get through the day and work through kind of some tough situations. But every day is a challenge, right? But every day is some students there was like an advice to the seniors, and they're like, "What's your advice?" Or they're like, "Every day is hard, but you can do it." And I was like, "That's so cool to hear." And I think they do like a PowerPoint like that at some point, where like they give advice to the class of 2026 gives advice to the class of 36 or whatever. But they were excited to talk about that and add the quotes to the PowerPoint. So. I'll digress. My proposal for the budget, since members were asking, is maybe we should wait until the state budget's done on April 23rd. A lot could come down from that. It's important to know how the state feels about the landscape of all education, and not just we're somewhat shooting in the dark with an understanding of what was left to us and what could potentially change. So we have just a few short days, maybe one meeting between then and there, and then in May we'll have more of an answer of what the formulas are, how it breaks down for localities, and where we can go with future funding for other additional programs. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Riffle. As Ms. Chen mentioned, I was able to visit War Hill, and it's not that I don't like dogs, I just have allergies. But it was really cool to see that as an option for our students, and to see that musical performance as well. And so just it's amazing all the things that are happening in our buildings. And I think as the public, you hear lots of things about public education, but until you actually go into the buildings and speak with the educators and the staff, you really don't truly have an understanding of everything that's happening. Additionally, I was able to visit Matoka Elementary School with Dr. Cavazos, and our Board of Supervisors, Ruth Larson, as well as Barbara Null also joined us. And I just want to thank Mr. Knowles for having that meeting with us. That was on the day after that tragedy, and Matoka Elementary School students were affected by that. And I think it's really important for the community to understand that when these things happen in our communities and our students and our families are touched by it, the schools pull together very quickly to support. And so our response for that was to have additional counselors available at some of our high schools, as well as middle schools and elementary schools, just to make sure that our kids are okay and that our staff is okay as well, because our staff members are also touched by this. And as students and come in and out of our schools, we are thinking about all of our young people and all of our young people's families, and making sure that we provide the supports that they need to be successful going forward in life. With that, we will move on to upcoming events. And our Career Ready Advisory Committee meeting is on April 14th at 3:30 p.m. at VPCC Williamsburg Campus at 4601 Opportunity Way. Special Education Advisory Committee, May 15th at 5 p.m., room 108 at the School Board and Central Office. The School Liaison Committee, April 17th at 8:30 a.m., room 309 in the Annex at the School Board and Central Office. And the Policy Committee will meet on April 20th at 8:30 a.m. in room 203 at the School Board and Central Office. Our upcoming meetings are a closed session on April 21st at 6 p.m. in room 200 in Berkeley Middle School. Our regular meeting on April 21st at 6:30 p.m. in Berkeley Middle School Auditorium. Closed session May 5th at 3:45 p.m. in room 300 in the Annex at the School Board. And work session and action items on May 5th at 4:30 p.m. room 300 in the annex at the school board. Our agenda items are set for our next regular meeting, and we are adjourned.